Hello and welcome to a very exciting episode of Just Shillin', episode number 35, I believe. I am one of your hosts, Sean Hoffman.
And I am your other very excitable host, Andy Bell. And guys, I've been hinting about this for a couple of weeks now, and I didn't want to commit because I didn't know whether we could deliver or not. But this is as good as it gets. This is as good as it gets. This podcast.
It's all downhill from here. It's all downhill.
Has peaked early. We have peaked early, and we have two extremely, extremely important guests joining us this evening. Mark, I was about to say podcasting legends. No. That's underselling it. These are podcasting gods of pop culture, of music, and of course of video gaming. And so, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my first guest, Mr. Steve Crothy.
Ohayou gozaimasu. How you doing?
He did the thing. That's so goddamn cool. That is so goddamn cool. Thank you.
Of course. I'm so happy to be here. This is fun.
Oh, man. And of course, we couldn't have Steve on without also having Mr. Hawes Burkhart.
Hey, buddies. You know, I was just thinking about this. I think this is the first guest spot we've ever done on a podcast, right, Steve?
I think so, yeah.
As High Potion? Yeah, this is cool.
Oh, this is so awesome. I hope you can put
I'm feeling so honored I don't even have words for it. I don't even have words. I'm just like,
no.
Man, we're cool. This is cool. This is awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Take that, Sith listers.
Shots fired.
Oh my!
That was Andy.
I'm
not on board with that.
Steve, I didn't realize we were rolling into the podcast version of Streets of Rage. I want that smoke. Eric Strothers already hates me.
Special moves. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. What we normally do at this time is on our pod is that it typically, I mean, our brand is basically two guys getting together, two buddies getting together every week and talking about stuff that we like. It doesn't get any more complicated than that. And so far, so good, I think, or I hope anyway. We certainly haven't had too much negative feedback. But in the case of you guys being such special guests, we thought we'd do something special, which I'll talk a little bit about in a second. But in the meantime, in the interest, we'll do this quickly. But what I would like to talk to you guys about is, kind of what's been on your radar, what's been in your wheelhouse the last week or so that's got you really excited. Be that news that we've heard that's out there at the moment, exciting news on its way. Whether you've been watching, listening, reading, or indeed playing anything exciting in the last couple of weeks or so. So, Steve. In time-honored tradition, guests first. If I can ask you first, what's been going on in Steve's world the last week or so?
So Hawes and I have been playing a game called The First Descendant, also known as Down Bad Destiny, which is has been a good time, good bit material there. I've been doing a replay of Max Payne 3, the backwards compatible Xbox version. An underrated classic from 2014. And I'm very excited about Metaphor, which comes out in about a month, I think. And very, very stoked about that one.
Excellent. What about you, Hawes? What have you been doing?
So, like Steve said, we've been hitting up The First Descendant with our buddy Jeff, and it's free to play, kind of. Because if you are like me and you're a down bad aficionado of video game ladies, there's money to be spent on this game. And I did.
We did.
Yeah, let's be fair. Now, also, it's a solid game. Like if we were talking, Suicide Squad, but with down bad anime ladies, I don't think it would have grabbed my attention. Still on Final Fantasy 14, I am on a long-term mission with that game. And also Steve and I have been playing the Marvel versus Capcom collection that came out this past week. that's got, you know, X-Men Children of the Atom all the way to Marvel versus Capcom 2. So if you're a fan of High Potion, in your future, if you were to rub a crystal ball, you will hear us talking about both of those games pretty soon, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, Hawes, are you still diving into Outlaws, or is that kind of weighed a little bit for you?
Nope. I play Outlaws. I play it a little bit every day when I feel like I have enough time. The problem I'm having with Outlaws, and it's nothing against the game, it's actually a positive, is that there's so much to do that I feel like 30, 45 minutes is not enough time to play.
I feel the same way.
Yeah, and I want to have a nice chunk of time to sit down and play it. And I'm loving Outlaws. I'm loving that I'm taking it a little more slow because, you know, I would rather see everything it has to offer than run through it just for completion's sake.
Got it. Cool. What about you, Sean? What have you been up to? I mean, we spoke.
I haven't been doing a damn thing. I've just been sitting around waiting for this, anxiously awaiting this day to come. And no, it's an excitement, an anxious excitement. Okay. Well, one, I had this whole plan that I was going to like just corner you guys the first minute of the podcast and be like, hey, why'd you guys bully me off of Street Fighter? But then I let it.
Don't you play that, Mr. Ben logged in for
forever since the game launched.
You know, every time that we jump in, there's some sort of bug or something that shows Sean as being logged into Street Fighter 6 for like a year and a half, like straight. Every time we send him an invite, just hoping. So I don't want to hear this bully mess. All right. If anybody was the bully, it was Jeff, not me and Steve. Come on.
Jeff has tried his damnedest to bully us off of that game too,
and it's worked a couple of times for me.
I'm too stubborn.
That is true. It is.
So Sean,
my PlayStation's sitting right here. I do need to get back on there and start playing again. And my fight sticks that you guys bullied me into buying too. So I gotta. but other than that, dude, I haven't been doing anything. I've been excited for this. Nothing. I'm ready.
Sean, I was ready to take. Sean, I was ready to take your side then and defend you as my buddy. But to be honest with you, I've known you for a while now, and you're not particularly reserved when it comes down to spending money. So I doubt it took an awful lot of bullying to get those fight sticks.
Mm-mm. No, any reason to start a project, dude. That's all I need.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You're in a room full of people with obsessive compulsive disorders when it comes to that kind of stuff, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, the amount of times that Steve or I have talked the other one into buying a game, like we'll just be hanging out and be like, you know what we should do? We should play the beat 'em up collection. Let's all buy it. You know, I kind of bullied Steve into getting Marvel versus Capcom.
Nah, you bullied me in the game, let's be honest, but you didn't bully me into buying it.
Yeah, I have a magic 8-ball for my deciding what if I should hyperfixate on something, and every answer is yes.
Yes.
So
same.
Yes, comma, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
What about you, Andy? What have you been up to?
Well, you and I have only spoken about 3-4 days ago, so not an awful lot. The girls came back. My daughters came back for the weekend, which was a good time. They did that. In them coming back, I was somewhat banned from playing Outlaws, which wasn't great because I had to spend time with the family, which I guess is the right thing to do.
Overrated.
Yeah, exactly that. However, I have made more progress because eventually the ladies in my life do go to bed, and I've then got the living room to myself, and so I did make some progress. I've done Kajimi now, and I'm moving on to Akiva, which is the next planet that we're on. So I'm pissing around with that, having a great time still. Hawes, we talked an awful lot about it in last week's episode. I love the game because it's lazy gameplay, if you know what I mean. It's not. Mm-hmm. There's nothing technically revolutionary about the whole thing. In fact, it lends itself to an awful lot of games that I've played even 10 years ago. It's not. There's nothing innovative there. But hell, screwing around in a Star Wars universe is just so much fun. And for me, there's less pressure than I felt with the Jedi games. So Jedi Survivor, I didn't finish because I ended up getting. I'm perfectly honest with you here. For some reason, when you were streaming Jedi Survivor, it landed at a good time for me to join, which is the reason why you may or may not remember. I occasionally would watch you stream. And for some reason, I got so fascinated and so hooked into the streaming that I ended up not finishing it myself. I did finish Fallen Order, but with both of those games, because they're, should we say, more disciplined games, the combat mechanic is a lot more finely tuned. It's they're both works of art, but I love Outlaw because it is lazy. It literally is lazy. Yeah, the combat mechanic it's solid, but it's not particularly dense. It's not, it's and I love it. And so, and the good news, Sean, is that when I last left you, I was in shit's creek with the Pikes, but I've been able to redeem myself and get a little bit of rep back, so that I've actually lost the death mark on me now. So I'm not getting attacked every.
Do shit for the Pikes. I don't like the Pikes. They put a death mark on me. I'll kill everybody who comes after me. Fuck the Pikes.
Yeah,
I saw what you did to that lady in the Book of Boba Fett that ran the bar. I don't like you guys.
Was that one of the episodes that Boba Fett wasn't in?
Well, no. Well,
awesome.
No.
Love it.
I don't think the Pikes were involved in.
Sorry, guys. I was trying to trigger him for some entertaining content, but he didn't take the bait there.
I'm not taking the bait. I said that's bait.
So yeah, it's all been about Outlaws. For me, a couple of things I'm excited about. I don't know if you saw the Wall Street Journal interview with Donald Glover. So while I'm not, I'll take whatever Star Wars is laid out to me and enjoy it pretty much every single time. And I grade the stuff I like and leave the stuff I don't. It's no big deal for me. But he seems to really know what he wants to do around his Lando story. I don't know if you picked up on that, but he's talking about it being a lot of fun and an awful lot of Star Wars at the moment, taking itself way too seriously, which I have to agree with. And I could apply the same logic to some of the fans as well. But he's approaching this he seems to be approaching this with the intent to make it a lot of fun, relatively lighthearted, and if it's a scratch on his kind of humor that we see in Atlanta, I'm really looking forward to it. So that's what's got me excited this week. Cool, very, very cool. So, as our vast listener base will know, all three of you, thank you for joining every week. Will know when we have special guests on, we try and choose a subject that is close to their hearts, so that we can get to know a little bit more about them. And then this week, there's no exception to that. So what we're doing is we're going to talk about video games. Surprise, surprise. But we're going to talk about video games in the context of two discussion points or two polls. The first question I asked this team to think about was, what are your favorite top 3 video game to screen conversions? And when I mean screen, it could be animation, it could be film, it could be a movie, it could be a TV series. But ultimately, your favorite video game to screen conversions. And the second question I asked them, well, let's reverse that. Let's spin it on its head. So what is your favorite screen to video game conversion? So what essentially is a film, an animation, or a TV show that's seen a successful conversion to a video game? And this could take hours and hours and hours. So what we've agreed is we'll keep it to the top 3 of each subject, and just try and get to know each other a little bit more about the types of stuff that we like. Now, as usual, we're winging it. We don't really have a plan, as many of you already know. When we cast, but from my point of view, and I shared this with the boys earlier on, I'm approaching this from how these screen productions or indeed the game makes me feel. Not necessarily is it the best game ever? Has it won multiple golden joysticks? Has the TV show won multiple Grammys, or the film won multiple Oscars? It's really about how I feel about the subject matter. So if everyone's clear on that, we're going to start with video game to screen conversion. So this is essentially originally a video game property that has been converted to a multimedia experience, be that, again, animation, TV, or movie. And I'm going to start with number 3. So in other words, our third favorite. And the first person I'm going to pick on is Steve again. I will rotate this around. And if you have any honorable mentions that didn't make your top 3, you're more than welcome to volunteer them now. But ultimately, I'm looking for your third favorite video game to screen conversion.
Right. Okay. So number 3, I have the Castlevania stuff on Netflix, which to me is it's not faithful really at all to the video games, but it's pretty entertaining. Very bloody and dark. And I've loved the storylines each season. The new season, the Nocturne one, was good. I think it gets the spirit of the game right. And it's something that I always look forward to. The quality of the animation isn't quite as good as, their Japanese compatriots do, but it's good enough. Keeps me entertained,
Excellent. Any honorable mentions that didn't quite make your top 3?
Yeah, let's see. So Street Fighter the movie would probably be just outside. I'm sure Hawes will have a lot more to say about that one. But there's been some pretty big misses too, as far as video games being brought to the screen, that I wasn't super crazy about either.
Hell yeah.
The Resident Evil movies were not really my thing. Any of the Mortal Kombat stuff past the first one, which, spoiler alert, might show up a little later on my list.
Amen. Hawes, what about yourself? What's your number 3? And any honorable mentions that didn't quite make your top 3?
Okay, so let's start with some honorable mentions here. So my favorite video game franchise is Final Fantasy, right? And I wanted to include Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, but I felt like that was kind of cheating. And the reason why I say it's cheating is it's not exactly an adaptation of Final Fantasy VII, as it is a sequel to the game.
Yeah.
I think it's incredible. I think it's really well done. I think it's the best of any of those sort of CG animated Final Fantasy movies they've done. Mortal Kombat, the original one, didn't make my list. It would have been very close. And my number 3, I don't think is as good of a movie as Mortal Kombat, but I enjoy it more. And that you can tell me and Steve be hanging out with each other way too much, because my number 3 is the 1994 American cinema classic Street Fighter the movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Hell yeah.
I would have placed a bet that was going to stick in you. That was going to come into your top 3.
It is just batshit insane, right? Like, you're looking at Jean-Claude Van Damme, who at the time you could easily argue was like the most popular sort of action film star in the States at the time, at least. And this is him at his peak, and you can only go down from Street Fighter 4 or Street Fighter the movie, as it pertains to his career. It's just wild. He gives the best movie speech in any movie I've ever seen. He's going to drive his boat up the river and stick his fist so far up M. Bison's ass that the next Bison wannabe is going to feel it. Oh, it's classic. Raul Julia being Bison, acting his ass off when he is not doing well physically at all, and you can tell. It's just, I like it because they went all out with it. And it did not turn out to be a great product, but it's a goofy product and it's fun to watch.
Yeah. Amen to that. Going back to Final Fantasy, so Final Fantasy was one of my honorable mentions as well. Did you ever see Spirits Within?
Oh, opening day, bro. Of course I did.
Yeah,
Are you kidding me?
Oh. What did you think?
You know, at the time, the animation was impressive.
Yeah.
It just didn't. It felt like a generic not Star Wars, sci-fi story with Final Fantasy in name only.
Yeah.
Like the elements of Final Fantasy that I like were mostly not present in that movie, and it was a bit of a bummer. That was definitely a disappointment leaving the theater after seeing that.
And they had a rocking cast as well. I mean, Donald Sutherland was part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I still have that again, Steelbook, all the way.
Me too.
And it's a really, really good film. It's just not Final Fantasy at all.
Like if they had called it anything, if they had just called it Spirits Within, I think it would be one of those hidden gems of movies that people talk about, right?
Yeah.
Put the name Final Fantasy on it, and it brings a lot of expectations that are in no way met at all in that movie.
Thank you, dude. Sean, number 3.
Yes. So I'm going to sprinkle some of my honorable mentions in just here and there throughout. I'm not going to give you all of them up front because I don't want it to spoil my list. I will say one of my honorable mentions was the Street Fighter cartoon.
Ooh, that was, I was going to, if I did another honorable mention, that was going to be on it.
Because that is also insane. Makes no sense, but it was a good time on Saturday mornings. But my number 3 is actually Detective Pikachu. I went in watching that movie thinking it was going to be hot garbage, but it was actually very, very good in terms of whatever Pokemon provides. Yeah, I thought that movie rocked.
You know, I'll say this about a Detective Pikachu is I'm not a Pokemon guy. I think Pokemon came out right on the edge of when maybe I was a little too old for it. You know what I mean? I think I just missed it. I respect it. Don't have anything against it. But I was able to watch Detective Pikachu and have a great time with the movie. Like, I think that's a testament to it, is that I didn't need 20 years of being fanatical about Pokemon to enjoy the movie. It's really good.
Yeah, it was Pokemon came out like when I was in like 6th grade, or not didn't come out, but like it came on to me like when I was in 6th grade. A tornado had hit my school the year before, so we were like having class in trailers, and like I just remember I had red, a buddy of mine had blue, and like I don't remember doing any work that whole year. And so when Detective Pikachu came out, it was like it kind of honored that like original 150, and it just hit all the right notes for me. It was pretty good. And there's also that Pokemon. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm honestly surprised that they didn't do a sequel to that.
Yeah.
Because I believe it performed pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, they have that Pokemon Concierge, but that's a totally different vibe on Netflix, which is also an interesting one. But yeah, that's my number 3.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Sean. So we've already mentioned one of my honorable mentions being Advent Children. The other honorable mention I've got is a guilty pleasure. It's not it's not perceived as a good film. In fact, it's got 32% on Rotten Tomatoes. But it's Silent Hill. So Silent Hill as a game scared the living shit out of me. And I watched Silent Hill the movie, not so much the sequel, but certainly the original movie, and I felt that anxiety. For the first half an hour of that film, I felt that same anxiety that I felt around the game, and so that's why it became an honorable mention for me, but not perhaps part of my top 3. In fact, I've gone probably a little bit predictable with my top 3, but who cares? My number 3 is Last of Us. I think it's a phenomenon. I mean, it's that really set that for me set the standard of how to do a TV production of a beloved gaming franchise. And despite I have a PS5 and prior to that I had a PS4 and I've played both games and I'm really looking forward to season 2.
Are you really looking forward to season 2?
I am, but I'm not.
I'm looking forward to the first half an hour probably of season 2,
right?
And then it goes to rat shit. But so far they've naturally tweaked a little bit in the interest of pace, but also in the interest of what the creators have felt have been the most impactful way of delivering the content on the screen as opposed to being in a game. But I've loved every waking minute of that particular TV series. I think it was an absolute masterpiece. And it's the latest. I know it's new or sort of relatively new, sorry, and it's the latest and greatest, and it's our buddy Pedro is part of it, but the whole thing I thought for me was expertly done. Right, so round 2, and what we're going to do is we're going to do this systematically and move everyone over one. So number 2, Hawes, we're going to start with you this time.
All right.
Give us your number 2.
I'm hoping to maybe turn on some people to something with this one, okay? And that is Final Fantasy XIV Dad of Light, okay? It's an 8-episode miniseries. It's in Japanese with subtitles, and it is about a father and son reconnecting through playing Final Fantasy XIV together. Now, why I like this is because I'm a Final Fantasy dude. I had to include it somewhere on my list. It's legitimately very, very good. And I think it does a good job of showing the sort of connection you can make with your loved ones through video games, right? For so long, video games were kind of viewed as this solitary experience. Steve and I talk about it all the time. When we were kids, it was not cool to play video games. You know? You might have some friends you would talk about video games, but it wasn't the cool thing to do. And obviously that's changed. And with the invention of the internet and being able to, it's no longer you have to go to your friend's house to play a game together. Being able to do it from all across the world together. And I think Final Fantasy XIV Dad of Light does a really good job of demonstrating that. And it's funny, it's touching. It was on Netflix for the longest time. It might still be. That's where I originally watched it. That's my number 2.
Nice,
excellent. I didn't know that's on the list now. That's I didn't even know it existed. So that's definitely on the list. Sean, buddy, over to you. What's your number 2?
It's hard to follow up something that sentimental because my number 2 is Sonic the Hedgehog, the TV series cartoon that aired in the early 1990s. Yeah, I got a lot of cartoons and stuff on mine. There's not a whole lot to say about it. It wasn't like the greatest. It didn't follow canon, like if there is a canon for Sonic, but it had a cast of just goofy characters. And
is that the one that Urkel did the voice of Sonic in?
Yeah. Jaleel White did the voice for Urkel. It had like Princess Sally and the bunny rabbit who was half robot, and she had like a thick Southern accent. It was a good old time.
That's they would have definitely made an honorable mention. They're not my top 3, but I also like the 2 live action Sonic the Hedgehog movies.
Yeah,
I think they're very fun and just a good time. They nailed the vibe. The second movie goes in there's some detours in the plot that I think are maybe a little unnecessary, but they're solid. Way better than they had any right to be.
Oh, for sure. I agree 100% on that.
Excellent. Okay, so my number 3 is going. Sorry, my number 2. Sorry, let's start again. Again, it's a little bit predictable. It's this would add. Had we had time and we were able to do the expansive list, this would all make sense. But anyway, my number 2 is Fallout. It's only it's not even a year old yet, and I thought what they did was great. The reason why I think it's great is because they one of the problems I have with video game to screen conversions is that they try too hard to get to get absolutely as close to the source material as possible. They tried to be exactly like the game, which I think is a fundamental mistake, because by definition, you're never going to achieve that. You're never ever going to achieve that. And going by what, I didn't actually go and see it in the cinema recently. We're talking about duds that are out there, but Borderlands, for example, trying exactly to use the same aesthetic as the game, probably not a good idea. Casting choice was weird for me as well. Anyway, point being is that for me, Fallout 4 landed at the right time for me. 2015 it came out, so it's 10 years old, approaching 10 years old. And it came out at the right time when I kind of Hawes, I think you and I've IM'd each other about this or spoken about it somehow. I'm a big Mass Effect 2 fan. Mm-hmm. And when Mass Effect 3 came out, and there was no sign of what would come in the future for Mass Effect, I needed a new kick. And so discovering Fallout, when 4 in particular, when you start down in the when you start down in the shelter, not shelter, what they call the vault, when you start down in the vault and you kind of then as a child, and then you make your way out into above ground, and and that whole vibe of that beautiful naivety of 50s and 60s corporate culture in the vibe that they captured within the TV series, I thought was absolutely tip top perfect. And so that's the reason why Fallout is my number 2. Steve, over to you, mate.
Man, that was a good pick. I really liked Fallout. It's not on my list, but we really, really enjoyed that show.
That's another thing. You said the word "we." It's also my wife got into it as well. She really dug it. And that's another reason. If there's any of my shit that she ends up enjoying, it kind of amplifies my enjoyment of the whole thing and my love for that as well. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, totally. I get it. Like, she doesn't know anything about the Fallout video games, and she loved the show. So just shows they're doing something right, in my opinion. I'm going to throw out another honorable mention. Sean, I thought you were talking about this, but I might be mistaken. I want to throw out the Street Fighter animated movie, which was also out in the 90s. And it had like an American grunge soundtrack. There was a scene where Ken was like driving to Seattle, listening to Alice in Chains.
Oh, and Korn's in it too.
Korn at the very end. Yep, when Bison tries to literally kill Ryu by driving over him with the semi truck with Korn's Blind blaring in the background. Plus the Chun-Li shower scene, which as a young man in the 90s kind of enjoyed. Pretty good. The seeds of Down Bad were sown that day. So number 2, I'm going with Mortal Kombat, the 1995 movie by Paul W.S. Anderson. This had a lot to do with the fact that I was away at university, as y'all would say in Britain. And it was the first movie I just kind of went to on my own without having like a family member or a friend I knew. And the theater was packed, and it was kind of a shit hole theater. So people were just acting up the whole time. And it made for just an amazing experience. Like, all these people just hooting and hollering whenever Scorpion came out on the screen, Yeah. There were fatalities. There were shout outs to like the friendships and stuff like that. I thought it was just a really entertaining movie. But it was probably amplified so much by the fact that I was in a full theater of loud people, that really can kind of make a movie feel really special in the right situation. I think that had a lot to do with it.
Awesome. Okay, number 1. And we're going to kick off with you, Sean. You're the first to go.
So I can, I'll have an honorable mention. It's the, I look forward to seeing the reactions on this one. But an honorable mention was the Halo TV series, specifically season 2.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll catch you next week.
Specifically, season 2. Obviously, it did not follow, especially season 1. Season 1 was all over the place. It didn't follow the plot of the games very well. But season 2 was starting to realign with it, and I thought it was starting to pick up steam. And I wouldn't say I'm like super bummed that it got canceled, but I was enjoying it as like a popcorn.
They were at least taking steps in the right direction, though.
Yeah.
That's good.
My number 1 is easy. it's Last of Us for all the reasons previously mentioned, but also similar to Fallout. It's allowed Madison to. She's been invested in it. She doesn't know anything that happens in the games, and it's also kind of I feel kind of special to me too because I didn't know anything. I mean, I knew about the games, but I'd never really gotten invested in them. But as some people may remember, the beginning of the year, I think I just streamed and blasted through both games in like a matter of a month, like right before the show aired. So like I have like this window of just like nothing from The Last of Us to like
everything,
Pedro, everything The Last of Us, and so it's been a roller coaster, and I'm really looking forward to. I think I'm going to disconnect from the internet for like a month and a half when season 2 airs, though, because it's going to be interesting. But yeah, that's my number one. It's a good show. Love it. Highly recommend.
Excellent. My number one. You and I have spoken about it at length, and ironically, so have the High Potion guys as well at length. In fact, they dedicated an entire episode to this show. My number one is Arcane.
Yeah.
I have rewatched that, and again, Steve, it's been a family experience. My wife loves it, and she doesn't like my shit. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
She doesn't normally get on with the stuff that floats my boat. And I've rewatched it now 5 times, and it's only been around for what 2-3 years now.
Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I think it's some of the best animation ever.
Mm-hmm. The animation quality is just superb in that show. For real.
The story is awesome. It genuinely pulls heartstrings. I mean, the two girls, and I love the way that when Jinx is older, the way that they kind of investigate her state of mind in the use of the animation. I mean, the whole that whole kind of schizophrenia and quite frankly, she's a very, very troubled girl, and the way they portray that in animation, I think, is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And I've tried many different other things, and nothing beats that show for me. I can't remember the name of the animation studio. I believe they're a French studio. And the good news is that season 2 is around the corner as well. Now, the game itself, I couldn't give 2 shits about. It's not the type of game that I would spend any time on. But goodness me, I mean, League of Legends, it's not at all my type of game. I mean, I've got friends that have played it, wax lyrical for years and years and years and years and years. But the output in this TV series is just it's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I can't. We took some time off as a family recently. The girls met us, and we traveled south and stayed by the seaside, stayed by the ocean for a while, and we burned through it again for a 5th time. It's one of those experiences that everyone, and my girls are the right age. My eldest is 26, my youngest is 24. They're at that age where they kind of like that well, they like anything that have female heroines and as the main protagonist, but they also love the idea of this. You know, they're quite spiritual young ladies in themselves anyway, and so the idea of this show really tackling things like, you know, found family, but also mental health and anxiety, and it really resonates with them as well. So yeah, it's my number one. Sorry, that's a long-winded way of explaining my number one. Steve,
love to hear it.
Over to you.
I loved Arcane too, man. I loved everything about it except that damn theme song.
Oh, that theme
damn it! Do you know what? I forgot. Sorry, Sean. I forgot. We were going to try and dial up a bit tonight.
Oh, no.
I was going to end that and say, of course, the best part about the whole production is that kick-ass theme tune. to see what to see if we could see the vein on the side of your head throb a little bit.
You would have heard me log off. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
I have a hard stop, and it's right now. It's right now. I gotta go.
No, that's a really great show, and I enjoy that one a lot. I want to give one more honorable mention to the Super Mario Brothers movie that came out recently.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that far more than I thought I was going to. The performances were just fine, but the animation was terrific, like top tier. There was lots of stuff to like in it. I still think about that really depressed character.
Lumiere.
Yeah, it's my favorite character.
Whatever that star is called. It's great.
Yep, my wife loved that movie as well. Lots of this stuff my wife likes, so that's pretty cool. But my number one is going to follow probably. I'm guessing Hawes's as well, but The Last of Us is number one for me. And this is this is a game that actually turned my wife around on video games, because she couldn't believe that a game was able to present something so cinematically and have such like a poignant story and performances that really captured you. And so she was aware of the story going into the show, as was I, and we're both still captivated by the performances. I love Pedro Pascal. Bella Ramsey's fantastic. The little tweaks to the story were just fine to me. I can't think of the woman's name, but she's the one who's running with Joel at the beginning. And she ends up kind of sacrificing herself halfway through the show.
Oh, yeah.
Really, really good as well. Just tons of stuff that I could go on and on about that show for forever, but it deserves all the accolades. And even as heavy and fucking dark as the next season is going to be, I still can't wait to kind of see it play out however they're going to do it.
Very cool.
My number one is The Last of Us. My number one's The Last of Us. The Last of Us is one of those things. We kind of talked about it on the podcast. Steve and I, since we've met, we've been gaming together. But there was a very brief, like maybe year and a half, 2-year period where Steve and the homies were off playing Destiny after I said, I'm done with this.
It's a shameful part of my life.
2020 happens. We're all locked inside. And that's where we sort of reconfigured or reorganized or whatever you want to call it, like got our little gaming group back together, and we played Final Fantasy 14 and fighting games. And it's something we have been doing every weekend since 2020, right? And it's been so great. But one of the things that Steve and I really sort of both got hyper fixated on in 2020 around the same time was The Last of Us. I had never played the PS4 remake or remaster of it, so I played that leading into 2, and then obviously 2 comes out. And I think Last of Us is the closest live action to what I would consider a prestige TV show, right?
Yeah.
Fallout, by the way, I think is excellent. I can't wait to see what they did. Kyle MacLachlan fucking Super Mario jumping in that power suit in the last episode. I said, hold up. This ain't making the top 3 just yet. We got to see where this goes. But I want to specifically call out the Bill episode, right?
Yeah.
Massive change from the narrative in the game.
Yeah.
But so well done, right?
Yeah.
Like the execution of that and the way they condensed that whole episode, that whole storyline into one episode was so well done. And in the original game, Bill's just kind of an asshole, right?
Yeah, that story is dark as hell in the game.
Yeah, and you really only get the full context of it if you do a couple of optional things. There's some things you can miss, right? Mm-hmm. And to me, it was really funny watching the assholes online freaking out about Bill being gay. But I was like, guys, that's in the original game. Yeah. Somebody didn't get all the collectibles.
Yeah,
get good, nerd. But they did such a good job. The casting was on point. Music, cinematography, writing. Literally, it's one of the few things that I've watched that no notes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I have no notes about the execution of The Last of Us. I am dreading dreading the second season.
Yeah, man.
As much as I am looking forward to it, right? So yeah, Last of Us is my number one.
Do you know what the sorry, I know we're really tight on time, so I don't want to go off at a tangent too much, but the Last of Us is the makes watching any other survival horror TV program or film really hard.
Yep.
Really, really hard. I tried what's the Rick and Michonne thing? The Ones Who Lived. I got through 2 episodes, Hawes. I couldn't. It's just like this pales into insignificance in comparison.
You know, I think that's a great sort of comparison, because The Walking Dead for me, like I don't expect an adaptation of anything to be 100% in line with the source material. I think that's a silly way to go into it. The Walking Dead was not successful in that regard. The comics are so much better. So, you know, just wanted to make that known. Like, there are good ways and not so good ways, in my opinion, to veer off from the source material. And every time the last of it did, I thought it was for the better, you know. And most of the time when The Walking Dead did it, I thought it was for the worst. So,
well said.
Here. Rightio. We've done one segment, and I think that we've proven one thing, in that we're actually quite clever folk that pretty much agree on everything that we've all said. So that's good. It's good to know. We can hang out more often and not piss each other off, which is good. Okay, we're going to move on to the next one, which is now we're talking about a property that originated on the screen, that found its way to video games, and we are back to Sean. You kicked off last time, right? Oh, me. It's me.
Yeah,
me. It's me. Right. 2 honorable mentions. One for the sheer fact that the game put the living shits into me was Alien Isolation.
Ooh,
I thought that was a really, really good game. It gave bearing in mind there have been quite frankly some dogs out there when it comes down to Alien games, and especially Alien versus Predator types of game. When Alien Isolation came out, it put the living shits into me. So I really, really enjoyed that, because I'm what brings us together in the first place, because we're big Star Wars fans. Shadows of the Empire. I've called it out as an honorable mention because it's not so much the game itself, because let's face it, if you revisit it, it's not such a great game. The gameplay is pretty schwonky. I hope you understand what I mean by that expression, but it's not great. It's how I felt at the time. When Shadows of the Empire came out, it was like this whole multimedia. Hawes, you've talked about this, Wax Lyrical, for years now. The whole experience of comic, novel, video game, all coming together at the right time, where we thought there was going to be no more Star Wars again, and there were new characters that were introduced. I mean, dare I say, Dash Rendar and the Outrider. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So they are my 2 honorable mentions. My number 3, though, is Spider-Man on the PlayStation. I remember the game that originally came out on the PS2, which I think was 10, 15 years ago, and it introduced the web slinging and the web slinging across New York mechanic.
And then the Spider-Man 2 on PS2. Great game.
Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. But when they reintroduced it to the Gen 8 or Gen 9? Gen 8 console, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, no other superhero game has given me that much of a buzz. And I really, really enjoyed the Arkham series, especially the first 2, sorry. Really, really enjoyed that. But when it comes down to a true superhero game, Spider-Man. I haven't played 2, which I understand is really, really good. I know. Again, it's it's my library of shame. I've got it. Don't shake your head, Hoffman. I know what you like. I've seen your Steam library.
I've played it. I beat it. No, what you're talking about.
Shit, are we about to see a fight, Steve?
This is a motivator situation brewing here.
It reminds me of going to a 10th Stone Cobra practice or 2 back in the day.
But yeah, Spider-Man, all good. Right, so we're back to Steve.
All right,
number 3, please.
A couple of honorable mentions. I want to shout out X-Wing for the PC. Pretty much the reason I still play with all my controls inverted is because of that game. My Y controls are still inverted to this day because of that game. Terrific flight simulator for the mid-90s PC folks. My number 3 is going to be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time, the arcade game.
That's a banger, Steve.
Yeah, dude. This basically ruled a summer. You know those magical summers when you're like 15 and your group of friends and you got the whole summer in front of you, nothing to do, no job. All we did was walk to the pool hall down the street from our house and play that game nearly every day that summer. And it's so fun, man. You could beat it on about $5 in quarters. I still remember that.
Just a banger of a game, man. Oh, do you remember going into the arcade and just you're like, they made a new Ninja Turtles in Time. What the hell is this? There was no pre-release hype for arcade games that I remember. You might occasionally see an article about Mortal Kombat 2 or 3 or something, but just the surprise of walking in and there's a brand new awesome arcade game.
4 players, you know.
And with that and casting my mind back, many times arcade games were released before the property was at the cinema. Do you know what I mean? So you'd get the game. It's a little bit like the days where Hasbro, R.I.P. Where Kenner, sorry, R.I.P. Where they used to release Star Wars merch before the actual movie, a year in advance of the movie, which would give you that kind of excitement and speculating who that person was and what their role was. I mean, in many occasions they were background characters and were irrelevant to the story, but that wasn't the point. The point was that you start speculating based on the merch that was out, and I felt the same way back in those days about video games that were coming out as well. I played Tron. I think I played Tron before I actually saw Tron.
I certainly played Terminator 2, the light gun game, before I saw Terminator 2.
Oh, really?
Right.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And was that the Terminator 2 light gun game which actually had the kickback as well?
It was.
Yes.
Yep.
It was. Awesome.
Great game, too.
Yeah, good
awesome.
time. It started in the future where you had to shoot down the
Yeah.
Good pinball as well, Terminator 2. Anyway, sorry. Very, very cool. Hawes, over to you. Number 3, please.
Okay, so I promise you guys, Steve and I did not talk about this beforehand. My number 3 is also an arcade game, but I want to take a moment to give some honorable mentions. There's going to be no Star Wars games on my list, and there's a reason for that, because it's not fair. Just like if somebody asked me, hey, what's your favorite movies?
Yeah.
I say, well, besides Star Wars, Stand By Me, Almost Famous, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, whatever, right? So I do want to shout out Star Wars games in general: X-Wing, TIE Fighter, Dark Forces, Jedi Knight, Knights of the Old Republic, Star Wars Galaxy, so on and so forth. I think Star Wars is the most successful property to video game transformation of all time. I don't even think you can argue it. They were early to the game with the original vector-based Atari arcade game, which slaps, by the way. So my number 3 is also an arcade game. It's also a side-scroller beat-em-up, but it's the X-Men arcade game, which had a 6-player version. It was humongous, and you could have 6 players playing at once, It's great. The sprite work in it is phenomenal. It's beautiful.
They used mirrors, didn't they, in the cabinet?
Yeah. Our buddy Randy told us that the way they extended the screen instead of having to spend money on giant monitors is there's actually mirrors built into the cabinet and the screen that gives the appearance the screen is bigger, so all 6 people can see the screen. They did a couple of ports back in the early 2010s on, I want to say, PlayStation 3 and Xbox Live. You can't get them now. You can't get those now, but boy, I wish you could. So that's my number 3.
Great pick, buddy.
Thank you.
Sean, your number 3, babe.
So I'll drop a quick honorable mention in there, and that is Star Wars Pod Racer.
Ooh, slaps.
That game, there was a many a Friday and Saturday night with friends trying to get the pointless upgrades in that game, and just maddening on the old hardware. Love it. On Switch, it's insanely hard too. It's like they have a clocking issue or something where it just goes fast, and it's really, really quite difficult. The other honorable
Sean, I spoke about this with the Scruffy boys a while ago, and they had no idea what I was talking about. Did you guys have, in the arcade version, did you have the full sit-in pod with the two controllers that you...
Those still exist in like our local arcade. We still have one.
If money was no object, that would replace the exercise bike in my shed, without a doubt.
The movie theater that I used to go to, like the cheap movie theater in Birmingham, it had like a little arcade in the front, and they had that old sit-in pod racer. I never did it because, like, who needs to see me in that thing at the movie theater? You just trying to come see Shrek 2, and this fucking monster's pod racing in the lobby.
That's awesome. I want it for like my desk. I want to like get an old one and like convert it into like a working desk. That's what I want. That'd be sick. But that's never going to happen. Madison will kill me. My other honorable mention used to be a number 3 until the last minute before we started recording, and I swapped it out because I forgot about one. And this is Chippendale's Rescue Rangers back on DOS. It was like the first game I ever played that was like, oh, this is hard. And just my fascination with video games started with that. God, it's hard to describe if you've never played it. It's just a DOS game on my old Tandy 3000 or whatever it was. Just fascinated me with computers back then. But yeah, my number 3. So I know we were all shitting on it a little bit earlier, but a good entry for this in terms of gaming is the Walking Dead Telltale games.
Agreed.
With Lee and Clem. Madison, I was walking with Madison. She was like, I asked her what her answer would be. She's like, oh, The Walking Dead. It's like, oh my God, I forgot how good that game was. I'm a big story person. I play games for the plot, and
the plot in the First Descendant is great. There's a lot of plot.
So much plot. But yeah, it was the story. It's hard to explain, like, where all the things that the later seasons of The Walking Dead got wrong, that those 2 Telltale games just knocked it out of the park. It's like, I like to tell myself that, like, the Walking Dead Telltale games walked so The Last of Us could run. Like, what the pieces of that from The Last of Us that do really well, Telltale or the Walking Dead game was just, it's similar, but it's different.
A great entry in the genre of games known as sad dad games, like Walking Dead, Last of Us, the newer God of War games. Love that genre.
Oh yeah. So that's my number 3, numero 3.
Excellent. So we're back to the top. So number 2. And we're kicking off with you, Steve.
All right. So another honorable mention this time is going to go to Aliens vs. Predator on the Jaguar. And I didn't actually play this game, but I'm just putting it on there because I always really wanted to, and I was jealous that I never did. So that's honorable mention. My number 2 is going to be the beat 'em up kind of side-scrolling games that were based on the Lord of the Rings movies.
Oh my God.
I really enjoyed those. I want to say they were on the PlayStation 2
and GameCube.
And the GameCube, yeah, they were way more fun than they had any freaking right to be. You know, fun with buddies too. But just really kind of captured the vibe of those movies in a weird way that a beat 'em up could do. I don't know, just seemed like something that shouldn't work, but it totally did.
Yeah, and if they were to release like remastered versions of those where you could play with buddies online, it would be an instant buy for me.
Yeah, it felt like what a new Golden Axe should be, or something like
exactly
that. Exactly
what it felt like. Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. Hawes, number 2, please.
My number 2 is Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. Oh, what a game. It is developed by LucasArts. It was a point-and-click adventure game. And at the time, there were kind of 2 big players in the adventure game space. There was Sierra. They did King's Quest, Police Quest, Space Quest, yada, yada, yada. And then there was LucasArts. And the Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis is like you're playing an Indiana Jones sequel. And it was one of those games that I would play with my dad because it was his computer. And my dad's a massive Indiana Jones fan. And it's the first time I remember being able to solve puzzles before my dad. And my dad would be like, what are you doing? How did you figure that out? Did someone tell you how to do that? And it's a fun Indiana Jones adventure that, to me felt like it fit right in with the universe of the movies. So that's my number 2.
I don't think I ever played it. Was it kind of like a diagonal? Like when they put is it a perspective game
No, it's not like isometric. It's
thank you. That's the word I was thinking of. Words.
It's a side view. So if you've ever played, say, Monkey Island, right? On
exactly what I was about to say. Yeah, okay.
It's that exact same engine, but made or used to make an Indiana Jones game.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah, it's available on Good Old Games. If anybody ever feels like playing it, you can get it pretty easily and play it on PC nowadays.
Excellent. Sean, your number 2, please, sir.
So my number 2. So I'll throw another honorable mention out there, and that is Addams Family on the Super Nintendo. That game was just hard and long and repetitive, and I remember playing at that game for hours and hours and hours. But it lives in my head rent free that I've never beaten it. So
on a side note, that is my favorite pinball game of all time.
Addams Family pinball game is excellent. Excellent. Great table.
It's cousin it.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Sean.
No,
number 2.
It's fine. My number 2, just for a little quick context, I have like a billion cousins, and so at my grandparents' house growing up, somebody got us a Super Nintendo, so we all billion of us piled in this tiny little room every time to play Super Nintendo games. And there was a Super Nintendo game that is my number 2 that, given all the games that we had, I think we would all collectively agree, me and my cousins, was the hardest game ever created at that time to us. And I don't know if we ever beat it. And that is The Lion King on Super Nintendo.
That's Dark Souls hard.
Yeah, it's harder than Dark Souls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the first Souls like.
There's no save points, and it's like the timing on the buttons, and you're trying to like dodge. I see why the lions get killed in the movie. It's hard. It was a hard game, and I still don't know if I could beat it. But yeah, the memories I have and the almost broken controllers from the Lion King adaptation for the Super Nintendo lives in my head rent free as well. So that's my number 2.
Excellent. My number 2 is a Star Wars game, and there's a reason for this. It's Star Wars Galaxies. I burned 10 years of my life easily. I mean, even after the new gaming experience came a few years later and completely wrecked the whole thing, I still persevered. But that game came out at just the right time. And Steve, I think when you have young kids and your life, you have no life anymore. You have no life. That's the definition of having, that's what happens. Released in 2003. My children then were 5 and 3. And so we had a very, very different life. Date nights were off, or they were certainly very few and far between. Everything was, Hawes, I listened to you and Will on a weekly basis, and I feel the pain that the guy's going through these days.
He is fighting for his fucking life right
He really
now.
is. He really is.
It does get better. Will, I promise you, if you're listening, if you ever do listen, I promise you it does get better. And then at the end of it, if you've done your job properly, they end up being your friends as well. So that's a beautiful thing. Anyway, sorry, going back to Star Wars Galaxies. So we didn't go out much. And it landed at the right time for me. And I still remember to this day, I had 2 characters. One was a Twi'lek, and because I'm a Wookiee guy, the other one was a Wookiee. And I can remember the end of my first day of playing it, and just sitting on the beaches of Corellia. I was on Corellia, and I sat on the beach as I was logging out. Now, with hindsight, I realized that was a stupid idea, because actually it takes you a couple of minutes to truly log out, and somebody can come up and kick your ass. But anyway, that's not the point. And just this amazing, the concept of me living a life in Star Wars, and moisture evaporating. I was making shit. I was doing the most. I wasn't interested in becoming a Jedi or anything like that. I was just literally making shit, going around from player city to player city, selling my shit and having a good time, and then hooking up with people late at night in the local cantina and in that virtual environment, just having the time of my life. And I burnt some years. I genuinely burnt some years on that game. And even when I tried the Old Republic, 10, 15 years later, it's good, but it has no way near the sheer feeling of expanse and I really enjoyed my time on the Old Republic, but it didn't feel the same. It wasn't quite the same, despite the graphics being beautiful, despite the gameplay being stable, despite all the things that in many cases the Sony Entertainment, the Star Wars Galaxies, had its issues. But good God, how I felt about that game. I don't say it changed my life, because I'd like to think I'm a little bit more grounded than that. But seriously, I burnt some time, and that means an awful lot to me. Okay, our number 1, gentlemen, and we are starting our number 1 screen to video game conversion. We're going to start with Hawes.
Mine is the Spider-Man games on the Insomniac Spider-Man games. Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man is my dude, okay? I can't express to you how much Spider-Man is my dude. Andy mentioned them. I don't think you can mention the Spider-Man games without mentioning the Arkham games, because I think a lot of the systems and things that Rocksteady built when making the Batman games, Insomniac certainly took inspiration from, but the feeling of playing those Spider-Man games is just, in my opinion, 100 times better than those Batman games. And I love the first 2. You want to talk about something that took wild deviations from the sort of source material? Spider-Man, those games is it. It's one of those things where I can be sort of precious about Spider-Man lore or canon or whatever, because those comics mean so much to me. But I love every sort of turn and twist that they put on the story. Like, I think the performances of the entire cast are really good. The writing's good. I don't think I like Spider-Man 2 quite as much as I like the first one, but it's very close. When I think back at it, there's a couple of sections of Spider-Man 2 that I would prefer not to play again, where with Spider-Man and Miles Morales, I would do it all over, right? The boss fights are great. Emotional story, beautiful graphics. I can't wait for whatever comes next. It seems like it's going to be a Venom spinoff game and then maybe a Spider-Man 3. There's rumors that team is going to be doing an X-Men game at some point, which really has me excited.
Lord have mercy, I'm about to bust.
But yeah, they've got the Wolverine game coming. And I'm not even someone who thinks that Spider-Man games before the Insomniac games were bad. I think Spider-Man 2 on the PlayStation 2 is really good. There are a couple of Spider-Man games on the PlayStation 1 that were made by Activision that I think are pretty good. But just the vibe that they nailed in those games, they're just phenomenal. Also, the best photo mode in any video game. I'm a big photo mode guy, and those Spider-Man photo modes, you want to talk about wasting some time? Sometimes I would just log into one of those Spider-Man games and take screenshots for 2 hours, like find interesting locations and viewpoints and stuff. Just the best of the best, in my opinion.
Very cool. Sean, baby.
So Spider-Man was one of my honorable mentions as well. Just everything you said before. I want to make sure that that's on the record that I think that is fantastic. My number one is very close to something that's already been mentioned. It's a variant. But I grew up as a Sega Genesis kid. And so my number one is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the Hyperstone Heist, which is very similar to Turtles in Time. The levels are shorter, but the AI is harder. There's less levels, but the levels are longer and the AI is harder. That being of the age that I am, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles show was just, I love it. It's perfect. I mean, hell, like I can't stop buying stuff with Turtles on it. And that game,
like Turtles.
I like Turtles. That game, I was obsessed with that game, being Donatello, and like the show didn't do it any justice. Like, oh, Donatello, like the techie guy, and he's got a stick, but he doesn't really do anything with it. That game to me made Donatello like top tier cool for me, and I put hours into that game. I played it as part of the Cowabunga collection. I've played the subsequent games.
Steve and I have almost talked each other into getting that Cowabunga collection a couple of times.
Don't let it go on sale.
Oh, the minute it goes on sale, it's going in my library. You mentioned it, Sean. That's one of my favorite eras of video games, where you would have two different, completely different games on the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, right? Like Turtles in Time on Super Nintendo, Hyperstone Heist,
Mortal Kombat.
But yeah, they would do that all the time, where there would be this is a bad example, but say an Aladdin game, and it would be two different types of games on both consoles. Such a weird thing that they don't do anymore, probably for the better. But yeah, I always thought it was interesting how the different platforms would have their own unique version of a game. The Beavis and Butthead games, completely different.
It's like, and that's what's funny. It's like they were similar enough. I don't know the deep layers of it, but it's like they were similar enough where like the music was the same, but it was faster. Some of the levels were the same, but then there was mechanics, like on the Sega one, you couldn't throw people at the screen. Like, and there was other things that were just different. It's like, I'd love to go back in time or just like read about how that stuff was broken down technically, like what there are technical reasons why it couldn't happen. But no, that was, I miss that generation. And what's funny is Aladdin was one of my, for Genesis, was one of my honorable mentions.
That's like, a good game too.
I could throw apples at people all day long, just all day.
My sister got that for Super Nintendo one Christmas, Aladdin, and I watched her play it for hours. The game was beautiful.
You know what's a surprisingly good game on the original Nintendo is The Little Mermaid. It is a solid game, The Little Mermaid game.
Nice.
Good for you. Good for you, man.
Good for you, man.
Okay, so my no. We're Sean. We're inclusive on this cast. My number one, Mad Max, is Mad Max, and again, it's not the best of games, but I loved it, and it was one of those pick up and play. Work's been shit. I need to do something to depressurize, and I picked it up, did a couple of missions, and I really enjoyed it. And it's kind of lazy gameplay that I'm enjoying at the moment with Outlaws. It doesn't take an awful lot of brain power to pick it up and play. And I already love the Mad Max franchise anyway. As a kid, the original, then Road Warrior and Beyond Thunderdome were staple viewing. As far as I was concerned, it was massive influence. And so when the game came out, it was great. I don't think George Miller had a good time with. I think he was looking more for a tie-in with Fury Road when it was developed, and as a result, I think he had a bit of a falling out with the developer. But I think the developer did the right thing and basically say, "Well, you've got your Mad Max, we'll do our Mad Max." And ironically, an awful lot of what appeared in the game itself, like Bullet Town, actually appeared in of course Fury Road and then Furiosa. But I just really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. It was I can't see anything else, but it was, again, it's one of those games that's not the most technologically advanced game. It doesn't break any boundaries. It's pretty formulaic in the way that the quests or the objectives are done, but it allows you also to I don't know if you've played it and you've got yourself lost out in the desert or in the apocalyptic wasteland, getting yourself lost out there. It's huge. It's absolutely enormous, and I kind of occasionally quite enjoy the idea of just mooching about and getting lost somewhere and without actually any kind of objective or criteria. So no, I really enjoyed it, and that for me is, and again, it's about how it made me feel and the time I wasted on that particular game. Loved it, absolutely loved it.
I feel like that was also out early on the Xbox One.
2015, right?
Which helped.
Yeah, 2015. Yeah.
And I'll say this, I really like the developer Avalanche. They also do those Just Cause games.
Yeah.
And like, if you sit down with a Just Cause game with the intention of just fucking around and doing goofy stuff and seeing what you can pull off, they're such a good time. I know that studio also has a Xbox exclusive game, Contraband, coming out that I'm interested in because I do like the developer. So I'm interested to see what that's going to be.
Excellent. So, Steve, bring us home, my friend.
Alrighty.
You're the last.
I'm going to do one more honorable mention too. And it's not Spider-Man. That game has got glazed enough on this podcast. It's a great game though. Both of them are. I think I agree with you though, Hawes. I think I prefer the first to the second. Although I think it's just a bit. Although I think that the second might hit higher highs, if that makes sense.
I do
that
too,
one level. I'm talking about.
I do, and the ability to play as both Miles and Peter and switch and how they have their different, like they actually feel different playing them. I'll stop.
Right.
I'll stop.
So yeah, my honorable mention is going to be the Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay game that came out on the Xbox. It's an underrated game, in my opinion. Surprisingly, like I thought it was going to be kind of bad, but it turned out to be an actual pretty competent first-person kind of RPG action game and kind of a forgotten classic, really. But my number one, and this is definitely a vibes thing, a nostalgia thing for me. But if you go back in time, it's a system I hated. To this day, I'm not a fan of it. But damn it, GoldenEye was like one of the biggest games of my teenage years. We spent so much time playing it on a stupid TV where you could barely see like your quarter of the screen. Because there's 3 other people also. Don't look at my screen, man. You're looking at my screen, aren't you? It was just so much fun. And to me, there's no other movie tie-in. Like if I think about that subject in particular, my mind just immediately goes to GoldenEye with a bullet. There's just no other one that's even close to that.
That's cool. That's really, and it was also a moment in time, wasn't it? I mean, it was the film itself was a reinvention of Bond.
I liked that movie.
Like,
yeah.
No. I mean, I didn't necessarily think Brosnan was the best of the Bonds, but that first take on him, I thought was before stupid things like invisible BMWs start turning up in the films. I thought was grounded. He had Sean Bean as if I remember rightly, he was the villain as well. And then that game landed to again, it was this whole multimedia kind of extravaganza that was going on at the time. And so, yeah, you can't deny it. It's a good choice.
Right.
And really
one
good
thing
choice.
that was really cool about that game too, now that I think back on it, was like playing the single player stuff. You could do it on like easy or whatever. But if you did it on hard or very hard, they would give you all these extra objectives you had to accomplish during the mission.
Sure.
And of course, my ADD ass could not stand the thought of leaving like objectives uncovered. So we all had to just play through that game on very hard from the beginning. And we eventually did it. It took us a while, man, because that controller, I'm sorry if y'all were fans of this, but man, I hate that controller. I still have nightmares. Like I have to play an alien in a game to save the human race, and they put a fucking Nintendo 64 controller in my hand. We're doomed.
Done.
We're doomed. But that's still my number one game.
What do you reckon? What do you reckon the actual logic behind that design was? Because I've never understood
Nintendo weirdness.
Yeah,
that's the logic. Like they've always got to do something a little weird, and a lot of time it pays
works.
off.
Yeah, a lot of times it works.
Times it pays off. Like, and then sometimes it doesn't. The Wii U.
Yep. Sometimes the cap is born with two heads. Sorry, that's dark.
My final honorable mention was actually 007 Nightfire on the GameCube. Like, I loved GoldenEye, but that Nightfire game I thought was a massive improvement. Like, it doesn't have like the cultural significance, but like that game was like the GoldenEye successor to me that never came. It was phenomenal, just as good multiplayer. But obviously not the cultural significance.
Right. Yeah, because Perfect Dark just didn't hit like GoldenEye. Yeah, it just didn't.
I'm excited to check out the new Perfect
Me too.
Dark,
Me too.
Living at the in time, that moment, it didn't hit the same.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Gentlemen, there we go. We have done it.
We did.
We have slapped that. I'm trying to think of a metaphor and I can't think of one, but that's mate, that guys, that's amazing. Thank you so much. I have got brilliant. I mean, the fact that we've kind of complimented each other an awful lot kind of suggests that all of our choices have been pretty rad. I do have a question for you now that we've wrapped up that, and I know that we've got to cut this short quite soon because of family commitments. But I need some guidance on handheld consoles, gentlemen.
Oh, okay.
Now I know that. Right. So very, very quickly, if money was no object, and it's all about the experience and the content, as you can guess, I'm in the market to buy a handheld at the moment, and I still don't know whether I go Nintendo, which is Lucy's preferred. She's got the OLED version of the Switch. You've got things like the Legion, the Republic of Gaming, and the Lenovo Legion and the Asus Republic of Gaming consoles. You've then got the Steam Deck, but the Steam Deck seems quite proprietary and locked down, a little bit like the Switch, I guess, in itself. If you were to choose one at the moment, and only one, where would you put your money at the moment?
Steam Deck.
Yeah, I concur.
Yeah.
What more than the Switch?
So listen, we are it could even be tomorrow they're going to announce the successor to the Switch.
We're late
right?
in that console's life.
Now the benefit of the Switch is you get the Switch and you have dozens of amazing games you can play, right? But just thinking we're around the corner from the next Nintendo release, I think they'd be silly not to have it be another hybrid console that can be handheld and connect to the TV. So if we knew more about that, I might say that, especially if it has backwards compatibility. But the Steam Deck, like, I know there's the fear of it being sort of a walled garden with, just having the Steam OS, but that Steam OS rules. And playing the caliber of games you can play on a Steam Deck is out of this world. Now, if you're worried about not being able to play games that aren't in Steam, you can do like dual boot loading where you can load Windows onto it and play games through there. I hear that is really easy and it's like a good experience. I just haven't done it. But even like games that you wouldn't think that you would be able to play on the Steam Deck, like Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds, which is an RTS, the thumb trackpads for like mouse and cursor movements work way better than you can imagine. It feels nice to hold. I have the LCD screen and it looks beautiful. And it's just the amount of content at your fingertips on the Steam Deck is kind of incomparable from old games to newer releases. So
they have an OLED version now, right? As well.
Yeah.
I would definitely spring for that.
There's a couple of offers on that at the moment. I think you've pretty much defined. You've pretty much kind of whatever my choice is going to be. It's going to have to be like I wouldn't say proprietary, but it's going to have to be something that's quite tightly locked down. I appreciate the idea of dual boot, but I don't want to have problems with with a device and then have to go back and then my warranty's screwed up. No,
that's why I haven't done it. Now,
you try and go back to the manufacturer and say, "Hey, I've got this problem." It's like, well, look at what you've done. There's no way we're touching this at the moment.
Yeah, and so, from what I understand, you load Windows on an SD card for the Steam Deck. So, So I guess if that eases your fear. Now, as someone who's a big fan of the more modern handheld Switch, Steam Deck, Portal, yada, yada, I've been very interested in the ROG and the Lenovo Legion, right?
Yeah.
And I've watched a lot of reviews on them, and 9 times out of 10, the person that reviews it says, this is really nice for this, and this reason, but I still prefer the Steam Deck.
And it's because of the app.
The
app,
the
which
OS
is your
is really good.
Which is your. Well, no. I'm talking about. I mean, you've basically got two handhelds running full Windows on it, which is not good practice anyway because the footprint's way too big, way too big for a device like that. And then on top of that, you've got these proprietary apps, which are basically your game launchers. And I've heard that they're just not particularly robust. They're not. It's not done right.
Yeah. Okay. And there's been the occasional weird thing on the Steam Deck with compatibility. Like I play Final Fantasy 14 on it. And I had to do a little bit of configuring to get it to work right, but I could figure it out. You know what I mean? It was nothing too daunting.
Yeah.
So the Steam Deck gets a full thumbs up for me. And to me, at this moment, it's the best buy in handheld gaming. The Portal is very cool, but it's a very specific use case scenario where you have a PlayStation, you have a library you want to play while you're not at the TV, and you got really good internet because it's all streaming.
Yeah, right? Now I want one of those so I can play Down Bad Destiny.
I think,
well, for me, it will literally just so I can so that Lucy can have the big screen in the house in our living room back. But I'm talking about it. I do a fair bit of traveling with work, and I just want to take something with me. So maybe
Steam Deck is, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, you've done me an honest there. Thank you so much for that. And I know we've gone over, so I do apologize. As you'll get to know me, you'll realize I go off at tangents pretty regularly. Sean, I can see you're about to agree with me, but you don't need to.
I was about to say I call you director's cut behind your back, but I guess it's out in the open now.
Director's cut.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, mate. Well, at least you don't call me at least you don't call me Snyder Cut. But anyway, listen, gentlemen, thank you so much. I am a big fan of both of you. I love what you do. I hope you understand just how much you're appreciated, not only by myself, but by many, 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 many people, about your approach to life, let alone the content that you both create. I have followed you guys for, especially Hawes, since day dot. I'm just so honored that you thought we were worthy enough that you would join us this evening, and thank you so much. Sean, do you want to wrap things up so that we can let these guys go?
Yeah. You guys rule. I appreciate it. I know we're beyond tight on time, but I just really want to thank you again for hopping on. It really means a lot. Do you guys want to have a send off? Anything you want to say? I mean, they're on High Potion. If you don't know what High Potion is, I mean, I don't know what the hell you're doing here, but
I can make this quick and easy. Just go to myweirdfoot.com for all your High Potion or Blue Harvest needs, expertly crafted by Sean. Check out the podcast if you haven't already. Steve and I talk about video games and mostly fuck about.
Yeah, and thanks you guys as well.
Yeah.
Like Andy, it was nice to really officially meet you. We've shot the shit on social media here and there. You seem like a really rad dude and generous, and it's nice to know somebody who's fighting the good fight behind the scenes. And Sean, you're the man. Every time you show up in the Discord, you leave me laughing, even though it's usually just like you just jump in and out for like a quick kaboom, boom, and you're gone. But while you're there, it's usually quality. Shoot, hang out more, dude. Anytime, have us back. Let's do it again,
please.
Anytime you guys are ready, you let us know.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Next time, you can find us at justchillin.com. We have an Instagram account now. You'll see a post up about this. I'm gonna quantify everything we talked about and put links and videos and stuff. So if you want the quick list, you can go there and find it. Till next time.
Hang on, guys. Sean's forgotten again. So the thought of today is go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life you have imagined. Take care, folks. Thank you for listening.
Heck yeah. Sheesh.
Love it.
Bye.